Street Fighting Man is a song by English rock band The Rolling Stones featured on their 1968 album Beggars Banquet. Called the band's most political song, Rolling Stone ranked the song number 301 on their list of the 500 greatest songs of all time. Inspiration, originally titled and recorded as Did Everyone Pay Their Dues? Containing the same music but very different lyrics, Street Fighting Man is known as one of Mick Jagger and Keith Richards' most politically inclined works to date. Jagger allegedly wrote it about Tariq Ali after Jagger attended a March 1968 anti-war rally at London's US Embassy, during which mounted police attempted to control a crowd of 25,000. He also found inspiration in the rising violence among student rioters on Paris's left bank, the precursor to May 1968. On the writing, Jagger said in a 1995 interview with Jan Wenner in Rolling Stone, the song opens with a strummed acoustic riff. In his review, Richie Unterberger says of the song, "It's a great track, gripping the listener immediately with its sudden, springy guitar chords and thundering, offbeat drums. That unsettling, urgent guitar rhythm is the mainstay of the verses." Mick Jagger's typically half-buried lyrics seem at casual listening like a call to revolution. Unterberger continues, "Perhaps they were saying they wish they could be on the front lines, but were not in the right place at the right time. Perhaps they were saying, as John Lennon did in the Beatles' Revolution, that they didn't want to be involved in violent confrontation. Or perhaps they were even declaring indifference to the tumult." Other writers' interpretations varied. In 1976, Roy Carr assessed it as a great summer street corner rock anthem on the same echelon as Summer in the City, Summertime Blues, and Dancing in the Street. In 1979, Dave Marsh wrote that it was the keynote of Beggars Banquet, with its teasing admonition to do something and its refusal to admit that doing it will make any difference. As usual, the Stones were more correct, if also more faithless, philosophers than any of their peers. Recording on Street Fighting Man began at Olympic Sound Studios in March 1968 and continued into May and June later that year. With Jagger on lead vocals and both he and Richards on backing, Brian Jones performs the song's distinctive sitar and also tambura. Richards plays the song's acoustic guitars as well as bass, the latter being the only electric instrument on the track. Charlie Watts performs drums while Nicky Hopkins performs the song's piano, which is most distinctly heard during the outro. Shane I is performed on the track by Dave Mason. On the earlier, unreleased Did Everybody Pay Their Dues version, Rick Rich played a very prominent electric viola. Watts said in 2003, "Street Fighting Man was recorded on Keith's cassette with a 1930s toy drum kit called a London Jazz Kit set, which I bought in an antiques shop, and which I've still got at home. It came in a little suitcase, and there were wire brackets you put the drums in. They were like small tambourines with no jangles. The snare drum was fantastic because it had a really thin skin with a snare right underneath, but only 2 strands of gut. Keith loved playing with the early cassette machines because they would overload, and when they overload they sounded fantastic, although you weren't meant to do that. We usually played in one of the bedrooms on tour. Keith would be sitting on a cushion playing a guitar and the tiny kit was a way of getting close to him. The drums were really loud compared to the acoustic guitar and the pitch of them would go right through the sound. You'd always have a great backbeat." On the recording process itself, Richards remembered, "The basic track of that was done on a mono cassette with very distorted over-recording, on a Philips with no limiters. Brian is playing sitar, it twangs away. He's holding notes that wouldn't come through if you had a board, you wouldn't be able to fit it in. But on a cassette if you just move the people, it does. Cut in the studio and then put on a tape. Started putting percussion and bass on it. That was really an electronic track, up in the realms." Bruce Springsteen would comment in 1985, after including Street Fighting Man in the encores of some of his Born in the USA tour shows, that one line, "What can a poor boy do but sing in a rock and roll band?" is one of the greatest rock and roll lines of all time. The song has that edge of the cliff thing when you hit it. And it's funny. It's got humor to it. Jagger continues in the Rolling Stone interview when asked about the song's resonance 30 years on. I don't know if it has any. I don't know whether we should really play it. I was persuaded to put it on Voodoo Lounge Tour because it seemed to fit in, but I'm not sure if it really has any resonance for the present day. I don't really like it that much. Despite this, the song has been performed on a majority of the Stones' tours since its introduction to their canon of work. On the song, Richards said, only a few years after recording the track in a famous 1971 Rolling Stone interview with Robert Greenfield, that the song had been interpreted thousands of different ways. He mentioned how Jagger went to the Grosvenor Square demonstrations in London and was even charged by the police, yet he ultimately claims, it really is ambiguous as a song. Musicians. Released as Beggars Banquet's lead single on August 31, 1968 in the U.S., Street Fighting Man was popular on release but was kept out of the top 40 of the U.S. charts in response to many radio stations' refusal to play the song based on what were perceived as subversive lyrics. This attitude would be reinforced as the song was released within a week of the riots at the 1968 Democratic National Convention in Chicago. Because of the 1968 National Democratic Convention and the possibility of the song inciting further violence, Chicago radio stations refused to play the song. This was much to the delight of Mick, who stated, "I'm rather pleased to hear they have banned. The last time they banned one of our records in America, it sold 1 million. Mick said he was told they thought the record was subversive, to which he snapped, "Of course it's subversive. It's stupid to think you can start a revolution with a record. I wish you could." While many of the U.S. London picture sleeves are rare and collectible, the sleeve for this single is particularly scarce and is considered their most valuable. Keith weighed into the debate when he said that the fact a couple of radio stations in Chicago banned the record just goes to show how paranoid they are. At the same time they were still requested to do live appearances and Keith said, "If you really want us to cause trouble, we could do a few stage appearances. We are more subversive when we go on stage." The single's B-side was album Mate No Expectations. For reasons unknown, the single did not see a release in the United Kingdom until 1971. The US singles version of the song, released in mono with an additional vocal overdue on the choruses, is different from the Beggars Banquet album's stereo version. It has been included on the compilations albums Through the Past, Darkly, Hot Rocks 1964-1971, Singles Collection, The London Years and 40 Licks. A staple at Rolling Stone's live show since the band's American tour of 1969, concert recordings of the song have been captured and released for the live albums Get Your Ya-Ya's Out, Stripped, Live Licks, and Sweet Summer Sun, Hyde Park Live. Legacy, Street Fighting Man has been covered by many artists. Rod Stewart covered it on the debut solo album An Old Raincoat Won't Ever Let You Down. Oasis recorded a version that was released as the B-side to their 1998 single All Around the World. The song can be found on the fourth and last studio album by Rage Against the Machine, titled Renegades. It appears on Ma Paragraphedly Cra 1/4 E's Red, White and Cra 1/4 E album as well as the Ramones' 2002 re-release of Too Tough to Die. The band Prima Donna performed a live cover early in their career. The band Lake Trout recorded the song for their album Not Them, You. The band Tesla also covered this song on their covers album Reel to Reel, which can be found on the rare disc 2-track number 5. Guitarist Pete Townshend of The Who has claimed that the staccato beat-a-euro rhythm structure of Street Fighting Man is the inspiration for I'm Free on Tommy. Dave Perkins and Lynn Nichols covered the song in their side project Pacifist. In 2009, the Australian rock band Sick Puppies used the first 15 seconds of Rage Against the Machine's version for their single Street Fighter. Radio personalities Opie and Anthony use Rage Against the Machine's version as part of the opening theme for their show. The song plays over the end credits of the film V for Vendetta and the film White House Down. It appears during the documentary Sicko and is also used in the film State of Grace. Wes Anderson used the track in his 2009 stop-motion animated film Fantastic Mr. Fox. The song is referenced by Chris Farley in the movie Dirty Work. The Buffalo Sabres of the National Hockey League have used the song as their unofficial theme song, taking the ice at home games as the song plays in the first Niagara Center. The title line of the song is sung by fictional character Jack T. Chance in the first issue of Green Lantern Corps Quarterly. The song was played on Criminal Minds Season 5 episode, The Fight. The song is featured in the 2013 movie White House Down and it was played during the credits. References. External links, full lyrics of this song at Metro Lyrics.